Good morning, folks. After a short break, we are back with Feni for the Soul, this time with a serious topic. Everything is not well and quiet in Goa. The people of Goa have taken to the streets in a large people's movement to fight against the state and central government's multiple infrastructure project plan, which really threatens to destroy Goa's environment completely. And I'll tell you how. There are not three, but in fact, four infrastructure projects that threaten Goa's fragile environment. One is the double tracking of the existing rail track. Then there is a four laning of the existing highway. And then there is a 400 kV, very large power transmission line that has been planned. And this could effectively destroy 100,000 trees in the protected forests of Bhagwan Mahavir and Mollem. If that is not all, 9 jetties are being planned on the major two key rivers of Goa, that's Mandovi and Zuari, which could destroy marine life as we know it, and more importantly, destroy the livelihoods of traditional fisher folk who have been fishing there and living there for centuries now. We have with us today somebody very, very important. We have Abhijit Prabhudesai, the co-convener of the Goyant Kollso Naka people's movement, which is emerging as the real spearhead in this protest. So good morning, Abhijit. How are you today?
Good morning, Rahul. I'm fine, and yeah, thanks for inviting us.
Yeah. Thank you for making the time, and I'm in your busy schedule. So let's start by asking Abhijit a set of questions. But the very first one, Abhijit, is this contentious railway double tracking. Now we know that there are the coal trains are carrying about 12 million metric tons of coal through Goa every day. So tell us how a double track is going to cause complete havoc, especially for the people of Vasco and all the villages through the tiny Goa.
Goa is actually gifted with the most amazing, natural gifts you can think of, and one of them is this amazing harbor uh, at Mormugao, which is the best harbor in the whole of Asia and one of the best in the world. Uh, Basically because our rivers are very deep and therefore ideal to bring in ships for shipping purposes, and therefore this Mormugao port was constructed by the British about 130 years ago, right in the middle of Vasco city, and was basically constructed for colonial purposes to take out our Indian resources and send them across to Europe, and to bring finished industrial products from there and flood our Indian markets for their capital gains. And this port wouldn't suffice. The port required connectivity in order to transport these commodities. For which reason the first track was laid by the British about in 1880s, about the same time when the port was constructed, and this track comes down the Western Ghats from across Maharashtra, Karnataka. It comes down the Western Ghats into Goa and has got the cheapest terrain among all the railway lines across the country. So that's how ecologically sensitive and how environmentally sensitive this area is. And that's the history of MPT and this railway line, basically built for colonial uh, you know exploitation of India. And nothing has changed, unfortunately. About 20 years ago, uh, coal transportation through this port was started. It was in 1999, and over the years this coal transportation has slowly grown like a cancer in the middle of Vasco city. So what you see today in Vasco city is a typical port city and specifically a port city which is used for handling a dirty cargo like coal. Vasco has gone down the predicted route. Today, the economic growth of Vasco is completely dead, it's stagnated, and the lives of people are completely destroyed. It's horrific. For example, you cannot you cannot leave any food open in any home in Vasco. Within minutes, it's covered with black dust. You got to clean your house at least thrice a day if you want to have it livable, because the coal dust keeps permeating, coming through the windows, the doors, and it spreads all over your floors and clothes and everywhere. So also one of the biggest issues is health. In Vasco today, we have the maximum number of chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases, lung cancer cases, tuberculosis cases. Recently, in the COVID pandemic, you could see Vasco was the most affected among all the places, basically because people's lung functions are heavily impaired due to the coal dust pollution. And it's been a struggle of the people, not just of Vasco, but all the villages that are through which the railway tracks go, because you see the coal transportation is mostly carried out at the moment through the railway line, which goes from MPT across to Karnataka, Hospet, Bellary, Vijayanagar villages, where coal which is handled at MPT, presently 12 million tons, is mostly transported by railway lines which run through our densely populated villages along the midlands of Goa, and then climbs up the Western Ghats and goes through the Mahavir National Park and Wildlife Sanctuary right next to the famous Dudhsagar waterfalls, and then continues across to Karnataka. Now, all along the route, there are lakhs of people living in the villages which are so badly affected by the coal, because as the railway lines, as the trains run through the villages, they create massive amounts of coal dust pollution, because the coal dust flies everywhere, and the impact on people's lives is obvious. The health of people is impacted in a big way, and we have done a little bit of studies in these villages, and you can see that there is a large number of cases of lung cancer, lung diseases, which are highly prevalent in the populations of these villages. So there is major impact on these villages. Again, the railway lines divide the villages. People cannot access their farmlands. People cannot access their institutions, their social, cultural institutions, even the schools. So, for example, children actually literally have to crawl under under the trains to reach their schools, and it's extremely dangerous. You have numerous accidents taking place. Villages are completely disrupted, and the economic and social fabric is destroyed by these coal trains. So there is massive opposition among all the villages, in view of what everyone can see is a plan to expand this coal handling and coal transportation multiple times. You know? Okay,
So then, Abhijit, what you're trying to say is that second track is absolutely unnecessary, right?
Yeah, if you see, the existing single track can handle a maximum of 15 rakes. Rake is basically a train uh, carrying X number of wagons, and it's only 15 rakes because of the steep terrain of the Western Ghats. It's impossible to uh, take more than one train at a time across the Western Ghats, because of which reason the number of trains is restricted to 15. at present, out of the 15 rakes, uh, 11 rakes are used for coal transportation. Okay, so that's almost like 70% or whatever of the trains are used only for coal transportation. The number of passenger trains is just two or three, which is hardly anything. And uh, and it's very clear from the way the the railway traffic has been growing in terms of coal over the last few years. It's very clear that the second track is being proposed purely for coal transportation, and this is reflected in all the government documents. The Sagarmala master plan and whatever other documents that we have managed to get our hands on, all of them clearly state that the second track is desperately needed in order to increase coal transportation through Goa. And over the last 6 months, we have been raising this with the government. We have produced the documents to all the authorities. There has been no response. There has been no rebuttal.
So I'm just, you mentioned Sagarmala project, and I want you to expand on that. Can you tell all of us, give us a gist about how this Sagarmala project really includes all of these infrastructure projects that we just mentioned?
Uh,
How
yes,
it's the
it's
grand design to really,
mhm.
which will harm Goa's environment completely.
Okay. Sagarmala program has been created by the Union Government, Ministry of Shipping. And most of the reports, the volumes, the 5 volumes that they have created, which describe and explain their objectives and their designs, were created about August 2016, somewhere in 2016. And if you see the Sagarmala program, its objective is to utilize the coastal areas of India, including the coastal rivers, uh, uh, in the maximum way for shipping. So the whole purpose of Sagarmala program is to utilize our coasts and our rivers for shipping of commodities, uh, basically by big corporations. And the largest commodity to be shipped obviously is coal. And so this is the program, and for the whole country. Now, specifically for Goa, the program has been outlined in volume 5, and 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 the uh, and the plan for Goa is clearly stated there. And what they say is that Goa is going to be used as in a much larger way, in a much bigger way, only for coal transportation. This is very clearly spelled out in the Sagarmala master plan, and uh, uh, the document shockingly reveals that from today's 12 million tons per annum of coal, the plan is to increase coal transportation through Goa to 137 million tons per year. And 137 million tons of coal is something which is completely unimaginable in tiny Goa, and which is something that people can relate to, because we have seen in 2011, when iron ore mining was at its peak in Goa, uh, when about 45 million tons, which is just a third of the amount of coal they want to handle, when just 45 million tons of iron ore was being handled in Goa, we know the amount of pollution and complete havoc and destruction that took place of Goa's environment, local economies and society. It was uh, beyond people's comprehension, and therefore the people are aware that what this 137 million tons of coal is going to do to Goa, and which is the reason that people are up in arms to fight against this. The Sagarmala master plan is looking at handling 137 million tons of coal. Now, presently, MPT handles 12 million tons of coal and is not able to increase that quantity, despite pressures from the corporates who are doing this coal transportation, basically because the infrastructure is not available. The infrastructure they require is expansion of the port, which means a lot of new berths, new ports across the state. Then they need additional railway tracks, they need highways, they need jetties, they need the rivers to be converted into navigational channels. And so there is this complete change of what Goa is from what Goa is today into a place which nobody will be able to recognize. That's what this program wants to do. And in fact, what is being done is that all these different projects are being implemented, being executed independently, and as if they are not connected with each other, keeping the people in the dark. And you can see that over the last 4 5 years, highway construction has been started in a big way across the state of Goa. And it is very clear and obvious from Sagarmala program that all of this is being done purely for transportation of coal. And and so these are the various bits of the jigsaw puzzle that once you put together, you can see a clear image emerging of Goa becoming a coal hub.
Thank you, Abhijit, for that excellent explanation. Also, tell us how all of this is really going to benefit just three corporates, at this moment. That's the Jindals, the Adanis, and the Vedanta Group. Explain how these three corporates are going to gain from expansion of the MPT harbor, and how those 9 jetties are being planned in our virgin rivers.
Absolutely. The transportation of coal, the import of coal and the transportation of coal is being done by just three corporates: Jindal, uh, Adani, and Vedanta. And there is absolutely no public interest behind this. There is, first of all, there are no jobs created by this coal transportation. It's mostly done by mechanized equipment at the port and then transported through railways. And therefore, there is absolutely no generation of jobs, and therefore there's no public interest behind this. Uh, what's really behind it is purely private profit of these three corporates blindly pursuing the same policies that today we know are responsible for bringing the world on the brink of catastrophic global warming and climate crisis. And in fact, this is these three corporates have, you can see, have very clearly taken over our our democratic systems, have taken over our economic systems, and are presently in a manner ruling and controlling uh, the state of Goa and our country, actually. And it's the most frightening, most scary situation where we are no longer a free country. We are being ruled by these corporates who, for their blind pursuit of private profit, are, we can see, are not just taking over all our resources, but are also forcing the government to spend tens of thousands of crores of public funds for infrastructure that will only serve their private profit. And you can see that a prime example is what MPT has done. MPT has leased out its berths to these private corporates. And so today, actually, it's no longer, MPT is no longer controlled by the government, but in fact, it's controlled by this private corporates. It's almost like a private port today. And that's what's happening to all our resources. And this looks like we are back in the colonial era. Just East India Company is replaced by these corporates today.
Yeah, I mean, that's an excellent analogy, Abhijit, and an excellent explanation. Thank you. Um, I'm just going to move to the two wildlife sanctuaries that are in the eye of the storm. Bhagwan Mahavir and Mollem, and we stand to lose 100,000 trees in one of the interviews that you gave recently. You mentioned that, and tell us how this is going to destroy tiger habitat and endemic plant and animal species, which are proliferating actually in the Western biosphere. Western Ghats biosphere.
Uh, we should all be aware that the Western Ghats are among the 8 hottest of the biodiversity hotspots of the world. The floral diversity of the Western Ghats is the highest among all the forests in the world. This is something which may not be known in public, but it's something that we should all be aware and proud of. This is like the most amazing places in the world, the Western Ghats, which, as we all know, extend from Kerala right up till Gujarat. And Goa basically lies somewhere in the middle. And to the north of Goa is the northern Western Ghats, the Sahyadris comprising of Maharashtra and Gujarat. And to the south are the southern Western Ghats of Karnataka and Kerala. And Goa is, strategically located right in the middle, and therefore in a very important place. Along this, we must remember, along this narrow strip, of this amazing ecosystem habitat of the Western Ghats, and therefore at a very critical place. Now, if you see the Mahavir National Park and the wildlife sanctuary, these are located in contiguity with, adjoining to the Kali Tiger Reserve in Karnataka. And together, the Kali Tiger Reserve and these protected areas of Goa and adjoining protected areas of Maharashtra add up to 2,200 square kilometers of tiger territory. And this is the most amazing, most brilliant tiger territory, I would say, not just in the country, but in the world. 2,200 square kilometers of tiger, of, pristine tiger land, where I believe that, tiger will be last seen, because Sundarbans, which is presently the largest place for habitat for tiger, is under severe threat from global warming and rising sea levels. And we believe that this is the place which will be the last stand of the tigers. And therefore, all the more reason to protect this area. And these projects of the double tracking of the railway, the highway construction, the transmission lines are going to completely fragment the Western Ghats, because they run east to west, while the Western Ghats is a narrow strip running north to south. When these projects go across the Western Ghats, they're going to completely fragment, divide the Ghats. And one thing I can promise you, that if these projects go through, then the Sahyadris of Maharashtra for sure will not have a single tiger remaining. Today, the census says there are 5 or 6 tigers in Maharashtra's Sahyadri, and I'm sure there are more. But if these projects go ahead, the Sahyadris of Maharashtra will lose the connectivity with the rest of the Western Ghats to the south of Goa. And therefore, we are going to lose not just a tiger, but a number of flagship species of flora and fauna. And it's not just the tiger. This part of the Western Ghats is among the least explored, the least studied areas in the world. And every time a scientist goes to this area where this second track is proposed to be laid, they come up with new species that they keep discovering. So this is a place which needs to be studied and preserved, not hacked down and destroyed, if we want to really conserve our environment and our biodiversity. So it's really going to be a complete collapse of biodiversity you're going to see a lot of species disappearing, some of them even before we discover them. And that's something we just cannot allow to happen at this stage.
Thank you, Abhijit. Abhijit, this environmental impact assessment studies that the government is supposed to have done, they are, as so many environmentalists have critiqued it, they are obviously flawed. So tell us a little about how they have done it in a haphazard manner and why it is not correct.
Rahul, you would be shocked to know that there are these 9 or 10 projects which are being considered for forest and wildlife clearances related to these railway tracks, highway and transmission lines. So it's, each project is actually fragmented and divided into sub projects, which are being considered and are being looked at as standalone projects with no relation to any other project. So, for example, if you have the railway tracks run coming from Hospet to Vasco, which they want to double, they want to build a second track. They have divided it into 5 different bits. So they are saying there is one railway project from Vasco to Margao. There's another one from Margao to Mollem. There's a third one from Mollem to Tinai. There's a fourth one from Tinai to X place, and one going to Hospet. So what they have done is they are looking at just one small bit of the railway track separately, and then they're saying that this has got the, it really doesn't have much impact, and therefore no EIA studies have been done at all for most of these projects. There was one EIA report which was put up on the government's website for one of the sections, and which was then removed from the government website. So shockingly, they have not even carried out environment impact assessment studies for projects which are having such massive impact on the environment, on the entire Western Ghats. Not even to carry out studies is really pathetic. It's something that's inexplicable. And and the situation is such that and it's common sense that the need was that all of these projects should have been looked at together, and a cumulative impact assessment study should have been carried out on what's going to happen if these projects are allowed. But in fact, they have not done any studies at all, and this is something that just cannot be allowed. The need is to carry out detailed environment impact assessment studies in terms of not just the flora and fauna, but also the hydrological impacts, because you remember the water that sustains life in Goa comes from the same Western Ghats that are going to be destroyed. We got to study what are the impacts going to be on climate change. There's got to be a study done on really what are these projects for, and if these projects are allowed, what will they lead to? And the answer to that question would be simple. These projects would only lead to burning of huge amounts of coal, which will threaten not just our state of Goa or our country, but the entire world. So these are the kinds of impacts that we need to understand and study and take into account before any decisions are taken on carrying out such massive destruction of our environment. But yeah, like you rightly pointed out, there are no EIA studies done at all. It's really, really difficult to believe that we are in this situation.
Yeah, it's really pathetic. Yeah. I will show a video just now and then ask you the relevant question. Really, this is a video of the Goyant Kollso Naka protest at Shandor recently. Let me just show this.
केंद्र सरकार वरून करता 23 वर्षाची
So, congratulations on, the continued campaigning, Abhijit. Congratulations to Goyant Kollso Naka People's Movement. So, after this protest that you all put up in Shandor, and then, the candlelight vigil on the railway tracks, you and five other, of your, associates were slapped with FIRs for something as preposterous as rioting, and wrongful restraint. I mean, which is ridiculous, so how do you react to this? How do you react to this?
Um, it's well, we take this as medals actually, these FIRs, because yeah, first of all, it shows the that the government is desperate, that the government is not able to face the public. We believe that our struggles have always been peaceful, have always been within our democratic rights, and as seen in Shandor, there was absolutely no violence or no rioting or wrongful restraint or anything of that sort. In fact, people were with candles, were singing songs, and it was a wonderful social gathering of people in a way. And therefore we are not at all troubled by these FIRs. We have been expecting such reactions from the government, from the manner in which they are supporting these big coal corporates, and are refusing to listen to the people's voices. And we will proceed. We take this as we really get strengthened by these FIRs, uh, uh, because it's giving us much more support. People are really annoyed with the government, and I think it's in a way helping our cause. We are proceeding with the struggle undeterred by any such FIRs or such actions of the government, and taking it in our stride. Yeah.
Abhijit, my final question really for this interview is, are you optimistic about this people's movement and that it will be able to stop these dangerous projects, and also how much have you been influenced by the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi?
Yeah. 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 Uh, the only thing that's going to bring change is people's movements. There's no way about it. Uh, all our victories in the past have been built upon uh, people's movements. In fact, the coal handling and coal transportation was planned as per Sagarmala to have reached 25 million tons by today. The people's movement started in 2016, when the Gadkari tried to launch illegal dredging, which was stopped by the people, and a massive people's movement grew to stop the coal transportation expansion projects in 2016. And we have been very successful in the 4 years not to allow MPT to do their expansion projects, which included displacement of thousands of fishermen to create new berths, etc. All of that has been stopped by people at the moment, only through people's struggles. And we believe that it's, the people's struggle is leading towards real democracy, because real democracy is when the social power and decision making remains in the hands of the people at large. So we are driven by our vision of of self reliant, self governing communities, where decision making is in the hands of the people at large, which we believe is the only way for us to have proper reasoned decisions, which will lead towards sustainable development, as opposed to decisions being taken by a few elected representatives who are inevitably controlled by crony capitalism and corporates like how Vedanta, Adani, and Jindal are doing in Goa. The same thing will happen everywhere, and therefore, these people's movements are so critical in order to achieve the objectives of democracy, but not just that, but obviously also to achieve the socio-economic goals such as stopping these coal projects and moving on to sustainable economic alternatives such as solar power instead of coal based power, or local self reliant economies which are sustainable. These are the things that we need to drive, and we are so happy and thrilled with this people's movement, because it's the only way we can stop these coal expansion projects, but it's also the way forward in terms of our democratic, strengthening our democratic institutions. And yes, you're right. We are definitely, uh, you know, um, we are definitely uh, driven by past democratic struggles. The father of our nation is Mahatma Gandhi has given us this path of non-violent civil disobedience, uh, struggles, which really is the way forward, we believe, and we are determined to stick to these well-established paths in order to achieve our goals. And yeah, that's the way forward, we believe. True.
Thank you, Abhijit. And may I wish Goyant Kollso Naka movement all the strength and support from all of us and the Almighty. So De Borekoro, Moga Sundi, and all the best, and we'll keep in touch.
And to all Indians, all people across the world, all the
Yes.
best.